So now that the glue's dried on the, or the parts have bonded on the tapping jig, we can test it and use it. Now I've made this little testing device for you to be able to try out tapping threads on a part that doesn't really matter, rather than getting stuck in and tapping holes badly on parts that do matter. So there's 12 holes here that we can test our tapping capabilities. So this should, the tapping jig should slide on there fairly easily. And we'll just grab one of these holes on here, and holding it nice and flush, holding the base of the tapping jig nice and flush onto the surface of the part, we just start winding the tap through. Now normally you would do 2 winds forward and 1 back, or a half turn back, 2 forward or 2 half turns forward and then a half back. But with acrylic, I've found it doesn't really matter that much. So I'll just do it all the way through. So we'll just do that for this. Now if you find that the parts are sticking a little bit while you're doing this, you can put a little bit of olive oil on the tap, and it should go through a lot easier. So let's try that with a little machine screw. That goes through quite nicely, and it should be quite square. Or it should be totally square in both directions. So now we can use the little tester to break apart, just to give you a sense of how much force it takes to actually break these acrylic pieces. Better to do it now so that you get a good sense of it before we actually get into bolting together the real parts. So I've got a whole bunch of extras of these parts made in your kit, so you should be able to do this a couple of times if you want to. So now we can use the little tester to break apart, just to give you a sense of how much force it takes to actually break these acrylic pieces. So I've got a whole bunch of extras of these parts made in your kit, so you should be able to do this a couple of times if you want to. So importantly for this, it's actually quite difficult to hold on to small parts and thread them with the jig. So I've put a little hole in the jig here where I can put a bolt through there, so that when we thread the hole, the part actually has a little stopper. So you can see it's actually pulling itself through without me even holding it. So that works well. Pull that off. So now we've got a little tester part. Now with this, we're just going to take this little piece here and slot it in the end of that. Grab this. Alright, so you can see that starting to flex now. So you just wind it and you can feel it cracking. Until it breaks.